All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're unpacking a really thought-provoking article called, Yes, We All Know Who the Boogeyman Is. And it basically asks us to take a hard look at what we're really afraid of when it comes to the future.
So, let me ask you this. When you think about the biggest, scariest threat on the horizon, the thing that keeps tech visionaries and futurists up at night, what's the first thing that pops into your head? This is exactly where the source material kicks things off.
And for a lot of people, the answer is this: artificial intelligence, right? We've all heard folks like Elon Musk and Sam Altman talk openly about the existential risks of creating something that's way, way smarter than us. A super intelligent AI that could, one day, decide it doesn't need its creators anymore. It's a pretty powerful fear, almost like something out of a movie. This idea of a machine developing its own cold, hard logic for self-preservation and deciding that, humanity is a bug, not a feature. But here's the twist. The article we're looking at argues that while we're all staring at this potential future threat,
There's another system out there, one that isn't hypothetical at all. In fact, it's already up and running on a very similar script. It's a pretty chilling line from the author. So, what on earth are they talking about?
And there it is, the big reveal. The whole argument here is that the real boogeyman isn't some future AI, but the modern state itself, an institution that, the author claims, already has its own survival logic. And it's expanding all the time, often at our expense.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, that's a pretty big philosophical claim. But the author says, nope, just look at the math. They argued that the proof, the state's self-preservation instinct, is right there in the cold, hard data. So let's dig into the numbers.
First up, the U.S. federal debt. The source projects that it's on track to hit around $38 trillion by late 2025. I mean, that's a number so huge it's almost impossible to wrap your head around it.
But here's where it gets really interesting. When you break that down, it comes out to about $327,000 for every single taxpayer. And the article's point is that a number this big stops being just a statistic. It becomes a kind of moral hazard. It's too big to fail, and frankly, it's too big for anyone to ever seriously believe it can be paid back.
And this really puts it into perspective. Just paying the interest on that national debt now eats up roughly 3% of the entire U.S. economy, the GDP. Think about that. That's before a single dollar is spent on any other government program. It's just a massive built-in cost of doing business.
And this chart just illustrates the trend perfectly. Back in 2000, federal spending was about 17% of the economy. Today, it's closing in on 23%. What's crucial here, as the author points out, is that this growth has happened under both political parties, through different presidents. It suggests the trajectory is systemic, not political.
So what's the root cause of all this? According to this source material, the problem isn't just big government on its own, and it's not big corporations on their own either. The real issue, they argue, is what happens when the two merge. And the author gives this a specific name: state capitalism. This is defined as a system where corporate and state power become fused. And let's be clear, this is not a free market. It's a system where things like regulations, subsidies, and bailouts are used to protect the big, established players from failure and, from actual competition. And this comparison is really the key to the whole argument. On the one hand, you have markets. Thinkers like Hayek and Schumpeter talked about creative destruction. Bad ideas and inefficient businesses fail, and that's actually a good thing. It's how the system corrects itself. But then you look at political institutions. Scholars like North and Buchanan explain that they work differently. They're built for survival, for path dependency. The incentives reward getting bigger, not necessarily better. Bad ideas can stick around for a very, very long time.
Okay, so if that's the diagnosis of the problem, you're probably asking, well, what's the solution? The author doesn't just leave us hanging. They point to a totally different way of structuring things.
It's a principle called subsidiarity. It might sound complicated, but the core idea is actually pretty simple. Instead of piling up power at the top, at the national level, you push authority and decision-making down to the lowest, most local level that makes sense. The goal is to create real competition, not just between businesses, but between different ways of governing.
And this makes it super concrete. It means you let California try its thing, and you let Texas try something completely different. Let North Carolina and New York experiment with your own ideas. This way, citizens can literally vote with their feet and move to places that better align with what they want. And, crucially, if a policy fails in one state,
It fails locally. It doesn't take the entire country down with it. It becomes a real laboratory for ideas.
So, let's bring this all back to where we started. Remember that comparison between the fear of a futuristic AI and the reality of the modern state? Well, here's how the author ties it all together in the end.
And this is the thesis, laid out plain and simple. The threat from a rogue AI, it's a speculative risk. It's something that might happen someday. But according to this article, the ever-expanding state is a tangible, measurable constraint that is already here, shaping our economy and our lives right now.
And that leads us to the final, really provocative question the source leaves us with. It kind of forces you to step back and ask, is the real danger the machine we're afraid we might one day build? Or is it the machine we're already living inside? Definitely a powerful thought to chew on.